Hi, boys and girls. We have the Unit 1 review sheet. Let's start with number 1. The first question is, what is the solution to the equation below? So we have 3 times x plus 5 equals 3x plus 7. So we have to solve and do the distributive property first. So we're going to do 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times 5 is plus 15. And it equals 3x plus 7. Now we have x's on both sides, so we subtract 3x from both sides. And we're left with 15 equals 7. And we know these numbers are not equal. They will never be equal. So therefore, our answer is A, no solution. When we have different numbers on both sides of the equal sign, that is no solution. If there's the same number on both sides, that means there are infinitely many solutions. And if you are able to solve for x equals a number, then you would choose one of the answers that x is equal to that number. And that would be one solution, because x could only equal that one number. Number 2, if s equals 2x plus t divided by r, then t equals what? So we are solving for t. So I'm going to rewrite the equation. S equals 2x plus t. I want to get rid of r in the denominator. So this is division, so I'm going to use multiplication. Multiply by r on both sides and get the r's to cancel out. And I'm left with s r equals 2x plus t. Now I need to get the 2x away from the t, so I have to use subtraction because I'm not breaking apart the 2x. If I was breaking apart the 2x, then I would use division, but I'm just moving the whole term 2x over, so you use subtraction. And you subtract it from here to cancel out here, and you have to subtract it from here. And you cannot subtract SR from 2x from SR, so you just rewrite it as SR minus 2x equals t, which is answer choice B. For the next one, we have John paid yoga therapy a $60 membership fee plus $15 per training session. His total for the month was $215. Which equation can be used to determine how many sessions he took for the month? So we have to set up an equation. We know the total is always on one side of the equation by itself. So right off the bat, we could cross out answer choices B and D because we know the total does not have a variable attached to it. Okay, so now we're going to set up the left side. We know a membership fee is just a one-time fee. So that's $60, and then we have the word plus tells us to use an addition sign, and then $15 per training session. And we have to set up an equation to determine how many training sessions he took. So right off the bat, we don't know how many training sessions he's going to take, so therefore that is where your variable is represented by. It's 60 plus 15x equals 215, which is answer choice C. Lines A, B are parallel, line F is a transversal, which pair are supplementary angles. So let's go through our answer choices. 1 and 2, create a straight line. The straight line equals 180 degrees, therefore those are our supplementary angles. 2 and 3 are vertical angles, they meet in the middle and are across from each other. 4 and 8 are corresponding. 4 is in the bottom right, 8 is in the bottom right. 3 and 6 are alternate interior angles. They're across the transversal and inside the parallel lines. Based on the figure above, which ones are alternate exterior angles? Let's go through our choices. A, 1 and 4. 1 and 4 are vertical angles. They meet in the middle and are across from each other. So that's out. B, 1 and 2. 1 and 2 we just said are supplementary angles. They equal 180 degrees. They create a straight line. B is out. C, we have 4 and 8. 4 and 8 are corresponding. They're in the same location. 7 and 2 are alternate exterior angles. They're outside the parallel lines and across the transversal. Therefore, your answer choice is D. In the diagram of triangle ABC below, angle S measures 70 degrees and angle T measures 50 degrees. Side AC is extended outward to form an exterior angle right here. What is the value of the exterior angle in degrees? Remember, there's the exterior angle theorem that says the sum of the two non-adjacent angles will equal the exterior angle. So 70 is one of its non-adjacent angles because it's not next to it, and 50 is one of its non-adjacent angles, so it's not next to it. So if you just add 70 plus 50, you get 120. So the angle would be 120 degrees. The other way you could do it is solve for the third missing angle in the triangle. So you would have to add them, which we just did here. You could subtract it from 180. 180 minus 120 is 60. And then you know that 60 and this exterior angle equal 180 degrees. So you could just do 180 minus 120 gives you 60. I'm sorry. 180 minus 60, which is the third angle in the triangle, equals 120. So either method, but the easier way is to recognize the exterior angle theorem, that the two non-adjacent angles, when you add them up, their sum will equal the exterior angle. The measures of the angles in triangle UVW are shown in the diagram below. What is the value of x? So you don't even need to solve for the missing angle measurements, you're just solving for x. We know that every triangle equals 180 degrees. So therefore, if you add up all of their angles, you will get 3x plus 28, add them up, plus 5x plus 52 plus 2x minus 10, and set them equal to 180, we would be able to solve for x because they are supplementary, they equal 180 degrees. So I'm going to combine 3x plus 5x and a 2x, and that gives us 10x. Then we have 28 plus 52 and a minus 10. And when we combine those, we get positive 70 equals 180 degrees. Now we have to continue solving for x. We have to subtract 70 on both sides. And you're left with 10x equals 110. Divide by 10. X equals 11, which is answer choice A. Number 8. The product of a number and 3 increased by 5 is less than twice the number. Which equation can be used to find this number? N. So n is going to be the variable. So the product is multiplication. So the product of a number, which we know is n, and 3 we write as 3n, and it's increased. We know that's a positive, that's a plus. So it's increased by 5, is represents the equal sign. 7 less than, remember, that always comes after what comes next. So you're taking it 7 less than twice the number. So twice the number is just 2n, and 7 less than that is minus 7, which is answer choice A. Number 9, we have to find the solution, so we distribute. Negative 5 times 4x is negative 20x. Negative 5 times negative 6 is plus 30 equals 2x minus 14. Minus 14. You have to get the x's together. You want to move the smaller to the larger. Negative 20x is smaller than 2x. So we're going to use the inverse, which is plus 20x on both sides. And we're left with 30 equals 22x minus 14. Add 14 on both sides. And you're left with 44 equals 22x. Divide by 22 on both sides. And x equals 2. Choose answer choice A. Number 10. In the diagram shown below, line A is parallel to line B, and angle 2 is, let's change this, it should be obtuse. It should say obtuse. So which mathematical statement cannot be used to show that angle 2 is equal to angle 3? So the measure of angle 2, that M represents measure. Is the measure of angle 2 equal to measure of angle 1? Yes, they are vertical angles. They are equal to each other. And 1 is equal to 3. 1 is equal to 3, yes, because they are corresponding. Therefore, 2 equals 3. That's correct. Now let's check B. So A is out. Measure of angle 3 is equal to angle 5. That's true, that's vertical. The measure of angle 2 equals angle 5, which is true as well, since they are corresponding. Therefore, the measure of 2 is equal to 3. That's correct as well. Let's check C. The measure of angle 1 is equal to the measure of angle 2. That's true, they're vertical. The measure of angle 2 equals the measure of angle 5. That's true, because they are corresponding. The measure of angle 3 equals the measure of angle 5. That is true, because they are vertical. So therefore, the measure of angle 2 equals the measure of angle 3, which is true. So let's check D, make sure that's our answer. The measure of angle 1 is equal to the measure of angle 3. That's true. The measure of angle 3 is equal to the measure of angle 4. That's not true. They are supplementary angles. Angle 3 is an obtuse angle. Angle 4 is an acute angle. They are not equal to each other. So therefore, this is false, making the whole statement false. So D cannot be used to show 2 is equal to 3. 11. Ben has 3 more than 4 times as many CDs as Jake. If they have a total of 33 CDs, how many CDs does Jake have? So Ben has 3 more than 4 times as many CDs as Jake. So I'm going to make a key. We have Jake has N CDs, and Ben has 3 more than 4 times as many as Jake. Their total is 33 CDs. So we can combine Jake and Ben's amounts for their CDs and set it equal to the total. So N plus 3 plus 4N equals 33. We have 4N, and N is 5N plus 3 equals 33. We subtract 3 on both sides, and we get 5N equals 30. Divide by 5 on both sides. N equals 6, which is D. Jake has 6 CDs since he is represented just by N. Next, we have lines M and N are parallel lines cut by transversal L. If the measure of angle 7 is 79 degrees, what is the measure of angle 3? So I'm going to, right off the bat, put 79 where 7 is. So 79 degrees goes here. When I am checking for angle measurements, I like to draw my zigzag. So I circle 7, cross the transversal, circle 5, cross the transversal, circle 3, cross the transversal, circle 1. Remember, anything in the zigzag are equal to each other. So 5, 7, and 3 are equal to each other. We are solving for angle 3. Therefore, it's congruent to angle 7. So therefore, angle 3 is 79 degrees as well. And in case you were able to recognize, 3 and 7 are corresponding angles, and we know corresponding angles are equal to each other. Number 13, in the figure below, the measure of angle 2 is 3x plus 10, so I'm going to put that right here. And the measure of angle 4 is 5x plus 40. So now, which equation can be used to solve for the missing angles? We know that they create a straight line. These are supplementary, one obtuse angle and one acute angle. In anytime you have two parallel lines cut by a transversal, will always be supplementary angles. Another trick is do your zigzag. You circle 2, cross over to 3, cross over to 6, cross over to 7. If one's in the zigzag and one's not in the zigzag, you know these are not equal to each other, so therefore they add up to 180 degrees. So therefore, answer choice C is our answer. Add up their expressions, 3x plus 10 plus 5x plus 40 equals 180 degrees. We knew they were not equal to each other. Answer choice D is not even an equation, and we wanted an equation. There's no equal sign. And answer choice A is out because it's saying they equal 90 degrees, which means that they would make a right angle. And we know that that does not make a right angle. It makes a straight angle, which is a line. 14, we're going to solve. So we have to first subtract 4 on both sides, minus 4. And we're left with 4/5 P equals negative 38. You could do this a couple of ways. One way, when you have 4/5 P equals negative 38, you could multiply by its reciprocal. Oops, its reciprocal, remember, is the fraction flipped. So the fraction flipped is 5/4. And when you multiply by the reciprocal, the 4's cancel out, the 5's cancel out. You multiply this side by the reciprocal. 5/4, sorry. And you get P equals negative 47.5. Or the other way you could do it is 4/5 P equals negative 38. You could divide by 4/5. Since 4/5 and P are attached by multiplication, the opposite would be division. And P would still equal negative 47.5. So either method would give you the answer, which is answer choice B. Number 15, we have negative 2.8k plus 13 plus 10.3k equals 25. We have to solve the equation for the missing variable. So remember, when you have your wall, you have 3 terms on one side of the equal sign. That means 2 can be combined. We have 2 variables. We have a negative 2.8k and a 10.3k. When you combine them, you get 7.5k plus 13 equals 25. We have a two-step equation. Isolate the variable by subtracting 13 on both sides. You're left with 7.5k equals 12. Divide by 7.5 on both ends. And you're left with k equals 1.6, which is answer choice A. Number 16, given that triangle ABC is similar to triangle XYZ, which is not true of these triangles. So first we have to check every answer choice. So we have A, the measure of angle B equals 25. Well, we know that these are similar to each other. And the minute they tell us that two triangles are similar to each other, we know that their corresponding angles are equal. So corresponding angles means they're in the same spot, same location. So Y corresponds with B. So therefore, if Y is 25 degrees, B is 25 degrees. So therefore, that's out. Now we have to check that their sides form correct equal ratios. So BC is the diagonal of the larger divided by the YZ, which is diagonal of the smaller. So it's the same corresponding sides. Diagonal divided by diagonal. Now we have AC in the numerator, which is the bottom of the larger, divided by XC, which is the bottom of the smaller. So that's also true. So that's out, because we want to know which one's not true. BC is divided by YZ. So again, we have diagonal divided by diagonal equals AC, the bottom of the larger, divided by YX, which is the side of the smaller. AC and YX are not corresponding, so that is false. So that would be our answer choice. And last, BC divided by YZ, diagonal divided by diagonal equals BA over YX. So it's just vertical side over the vertical side, which is true. So that's not our answer choice. 17. Bernard solved an equation incorrectly, as shown below. Describe the error Bernard made. So let's check. 4x minus 3 times x minus 5 equals x. So the first step was to distribute this negative 3 to the x and to the negative 5. So we should have had negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Negative 3 times negative 5 should have been a positive 14. So the error that Bernard made is he did not multiply negative 3 times negative 5 when he distributed. Okay, so he had the wrong sign. It should have been a positive 15. 18. Students were asked to write a formula for the width of a rectangle by using the formula for its perimeter. P equals 2L plus 2W. Solve for W. So we have the equation P equals 2L plus 2W. The W is attached to this 2, so we need to move this whole term away. We're not breaking up the 2L, you're just moving it over. So you have to subtract 2L from both sides, and you're left with P minus 2L equals 2W. You divide by 2 on both sides, and you're left with P divided by 2, because we're going to divide P by 2, and then we have to divide negative 2L by 2, and negative 2 divided by 2 is a negative 1, so therefore it's just a negative L equals W. Okay, you had to simplify because you could divide negative 2 divided by 2, and when you're dividing, make sure you divide each term by the denominator. So that's why we showed P divided by 2 is P over 2 because nothing can be simplified. And negative 2L divided by 2, the 2's can cancel out and we're left with negative L as our answer. Or you could have just left it as W equals P minus 2L over 2. Just be careful because if it's a multiple choice question, you have to see which way they want you to answer it. So if you don't see this answer, that means it's simplified to this answer. 19. Which expression results in a rational number? So here we have all addition problems. So therefore, we are going to say that the only way we can have a rational answer is when we have a rational plus a rational equals rational. So I'm going to label each of these first. L, square root of 3 is irrational because that's a non-perfect square. M, 4 square root of 5 is irrational. It's a non-perfect square. N equals negative 3.567. That's a terminating decimal. That's rational. And p is negative 2/3, which is a fraction, and that's rational. So let's check. L plus m. L is irrational, plus m is irrational. That would be irrational. That's out. D. M plus n. Irrational plus irrational equals irrational. Down. N plus p. Rational plus rational equals rational. That's our answer. And let's just make sure p is rational plus L, which is irrational, gives us irrational, which is out as well. 20. For which value for k, constant k, in the equation shown below will result in an infinite number of solutions. So therefore, we want to know what does k have to be in order to make this equation have infinitely many solutions. We know that when an equation has infinitely many solutions, it has equal expressions. So the equation is equal on both sides. So if this side says 12x plus 24, we want this side to say 12x plus 24. That is our goal, to have one side of the equation be equal to the other side. Same exact thing. So what will k need to be in order to get, when you multiply by 3, you get 12. What times 3 gives us 12? 4. Same thing. What times 6 gives us 24? 4. So k, our constant, is 4. 21. Mr. Stanton asked his students to write an algebraic expression on a piece of paper. He chose 4 students to go to the board and write their expressions. Which students wrote equations instead? So Robert wrote 4 parentheses 2x plus 5 is greater than or equal to 17. That's an inequality. Meredith wrote 3y minus 7 plus 11z. That's an expression because there is no equal sign. Stephen wrote 9w plus 2 equals 20. That's an equation. Cynthia wrote 8 plus 10 minus 4 equals 14. That's an equation. So Stephen and Cynthia wrote equations instead. Which statement is true? Every rational number is an integer. That's not true because we have fractions and we have decimals that are not integers, and they are rational. Every whole number is a counting number. That's false, because whole numbers include 0, and counting numbers do not include zeros. So 0 is not a counting number. That's false. Every integer is a whole number. That's false, because whole numbers are just 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so positive integers. So 0 and positive integers. Integers include negatives. That's out. That's false. But is every whole number a rational number? Yes. All whole numbers are rational. That's true. If t equals negative 6, then 3t squared plus 5t plus 6 equals what? So you have to substitute in. Wherever you see t, you replace with negative 6. So you're going to just substitute it in. Oops, sorry. So 3 times negative 6 squared plus 5 times negative 6 plus 6. Type it in directly into the calculator the way you see this here. You could type it all right in and it will give you your answer. If not, you could do it step by step. Negative 6 is getting squared. It's only attached to the number in the parentheses. So negative 6 squared is 36. Plus 5 times negative 6 plus 6. Now I'm going to do multiplication. 3 times 36 is 108. 5 times negative 6 is negative 30 plus 6. And when you type that into your calculator, your answer is 84. The perimeter of a triangle is 51 centimeters. The lengths of the sides are consecutive odd integers. Find the lengths of all three sides. So when we're solving for consecutive odd integers, we have to make a key. The first integer is represented by n. The second integer is represented by n plus 2. So anytime you have consecutive odd or even integers, your second integer is always represented by the expression n plus 2, and the third is always represented by n plus 4. You're counting by twos because you have to skip a number in between to get the odd or even integers. Now, to find the perimeter of a triangle, you know that to find the perimeter, there you add up all sides, and their total perimeter is 51. So we're going to add up n plus 2 plus n plus 4 equals 51. We combine n plus n plus n is 3n plus 2 and a 4 plus 6 equals 51. Subtract 6 on both sides. You get 3n equals 45. Divided by 3 on both sides. You get n equals 15. So they want the length of all sides. The first side is just n, so it's 15 centimeters. To get n plus 2, you substitute in 15 plus 2, and you get 17 centimeters. And for n plus 4, you get 15 plus 4, which is 19 centimeters. And that would be your answer. And last, the last of the multiple choice, if A equals 1/2 P plus RT, then P equals what? So the first step is to get rid of this term. It's attached by addition, so we're going to subtract RT. We're not splitting up RT. So we have A minus RT equals 1/2 P. To get rid of this, remember we could get rid of a fraction in two ways. A minus RT equals 1/2 P. You can multiply a fraction by its reciprocal and it could cancel out in one step. The 2's cancel out and the 1's cancel out. And what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So you want to multiply this side by 2. But make sure you're multiplying the whole side by 2. It's going to have A is going to multiply by 2, n minus R and T. So you have to put that whole side in parentheses, and your answer is P equals 2 parentheses A minus RT. Okay? I'm going to skip the second way because we want you to get into the habit of using the reciprocal. It's the easiest when you have a fraction. So whenever you have a fraction attached to a variable, multiply by its reciprocal and it cancels out in one step. So for our next question, we have our first open-ended. So these questions you will have to show all work and then circle your final answer. So the question says, triangle ABC is translated to create triangle DFG. So when you translate a figure, it's just shifting from left to right. In these triangles, side AB is congruent to side DF. So AB is congruent to DF. So that means that they are equal to each other. So we are going to create an equation for those two sides in order to solve for the missing variable x. So we have 3 times 2x plus 10 equals 12x plus 12. Then BC is congruent to FG. So BC is 2y plus 12 is congruent to FG, which is 2 times 2y minus 3. We're going to set up an equation showing their expressions are equal to each other. Now we just have to solve for each of them. So let me get rid of this accident. So we're going to just start to solve because we have to create an equation or equations, which we just did, to determine the values of x and y. So we start by distributing. 3 times 2x is 6x. Oops. And 3 times 10 is plus 30 equals 12x plus 12. Then we have to subtract 6x on both sides because we need to combine the x's and they're on opposite sides. And we're left with 30 equals 6x plus 12. Subtract 12 on both sides. And we're left with 18 equals 6x. Divide by 6. Divide by 6. X equals 3. Now to solve for y, you have to distribute. On this side, there's nothing to do. So you do 2y plus 12. And then you do your distributive property. 2 times 2y is 4y. 2 times a negative 3 is a negative 6. Now we have y's on both sides, so we have to bring the smaller to the larger using opposite operation, inverses. So you minus 2y on both sides, and you're left with 12 equals 2y minus 6. It's 6 on both sides, and you're left with 18 equals 2y. Divide by 2, y equals 9. For the next one, we have the formula for solving for the volume is v equals 1/3 pi r squared h. We have to solve for r in terms of v and h. So our first step is to get rid of this fraction. And remember, to get rid of a fraction that's attached to everything by multiplication, you multiply by its reciprocal. In one step, you get rid of the whole fraction because the 3's cancel out and the 1's. And what you do to one side, you do to the other. So now you have 3v equals pi r squared h. R squared is right here. It's attached to the pi and the h by multiplication. The opposite operation, the inverse, is to use division. So we're going to divide by everything that is not r. So the pi, so pi's can cancel out, and the h, so the h can cancel out. If we divide by pi h on this side, we have to divide by pi h on this side. And now we're left with 3v equals pi over pi h equals r squared. So 3v over pi h equals r squared. Now, to get rid of this squared, the inverse of squaring something is the square root. So you take the square root of both sides to cancel out the squared, and r equals the square root of 3v divided by pi h. 28 is the product of the square root of 9 and the square root of 8, rational and irrational, and explain your reasoning. So the product is multiplication. So is negative 9 times negative 8, is the square root of 9 times the square root of 8 rational or irrational? So let's see. The square root of 9 is a rational number because it's a perfect square. And the square root of 8 is an irrational number because it is a non-perfect square. When you multiply a rational number by an irrational number, the product will be irrational. And that is always. Anytime you multiply a rational number times an irrational number, you'll always get an irrational answer. If you had a rational times a rational, that would be a rational answer. Okay? Here we have to solve and determine the solution to the equation below. So on this side we have 3 terms, so we need to combine a negative 4.1x and a negative 7.4x. So when we combine them, we are going to get negative 11.5x minus 12 equals, we have 1.5x we're going to leave alone, but we are going to distribute this negative 4 times x and then negative 4 times the negative 3 halves. Negative 4 times x is negative 4x, and negative 4 times negative 3 over 2 is positive 6. On this side, we already combined like terms, so we're just going to leave negative 11.5x minus 12 equals. On this side, we have 1.5x and negative 4x. When you combine these, you get negative 2.5x plus 6. Now we have variables on both sides. You want to bring the smaller to the larger using inverse operations. So we want to bring negative 11.5x over. It is smaller than negative 2.5x. And we're left with negative 12 equals 9x plus 6. Subtract 6 on both sides to isolate the variable, and we're left with negative 18 equals 9x. Divide by 9 on both sides, and we're left with x equals negative 2. And that's your answer. So last, the question says, find 3 consecutive integers such that the sum, which is addition, of twice the smallest and 3 times the largest is, which is equal sign, 126. So we first need to create a key for our 3 consecutive integers. So our key is, our first integer is n plus 1 is the second integer, and n plus 2 is your third integer. And the total is 126. So we're setting up an equation, and it has to equal 126. But now let's go back and read it. We have to find 3 consecutive integers such that the sum of twice the smallest, so twice the smallest would be 2 times n, and so that's a plus sign, 3 times the largest, so 3 times the whole expression, n plus 2. So when you are multiplying a number times an expression, you have to put parentheses around it. So we would write plus 3 parentheses, and we write in the expression for the third one, n plus 2. Let me just get rid of that. So now we have twice the smallest plus 3 times the largest is 126. We have to distribute. And we're left with 2n plus 3n plus 6 equals 126. Combine the 2n and a 3n, and we get 5n plus 6 equals 126. We have to isolate the variables, so we subtract 6 on both sides, and we're left with 5n equals 120. Divide by 5 on both sides, and we're left with n equals 24. So n is 24. 24 plus 1 equals 25, and 24 plus 2 equals 26. So the integers are 24. Let me erase this, because that's not the answer. That's just n. We have to find all 3 of them. So 24, 25, and 26. And that's the end of your review sheet.